Okay.
All right, we ready?
Yep.
Today is March 13th.
Yep.
So, and we're going to skip next week, and then we get together again on March 27th.
Yes.
Right? We're covering chapter 4 of the On Attaining Buddhahood in This Lifetime by Daisaku Ikeda. Pardon me. And we'll start again, as we did with every other chapter, or starting with chapter 1. We're going to do the key points from last week first. Let's review those. They're on page 27. Okay, the meaning of chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. To chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is to commune with the mystic law. And we discussed what communing is, right? All right. It is a Buddhist practice for fusing our lives with this law, which comes about from that communing, that relationship. Okay? At the same time, it is a battle to conquer the inner darkness that prevents this fusion from taking place. That opposition to that fusion occurring will also always be there. It's a promise. When, through our practice of faith, we vanquish this darkness of ignorance, illusion and ignorance, and become one with the mystic law, its infinite power unfolds in our lives, such as the immeasurable benefit of chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. But what does he say again? When through our practice of faith, it's only through our practice of faith that we can vanquish this darkness of ignorance, illusion and ignorance, okay? Because we can also fake the vanquishing and act as though we're not bothered by things that are really bumming us out. We can put them on a shelf and kind of ignore them and never resolve them. That's part of what we're going to be talking about in chapter 4. All right? The second point here, the cause and effect of attaining Buddhahood. Everybody understood what I was talking about just now, right? The power of chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo enables us to actualize cause and effect in a single moment of life. That is faith, cause, leading to the manifestation of Buddhahood, or of the manifestation of our effect, our Buddhahood effect. Considered in this light, one's voice chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is the voice of unshakable faith and the seeking spirit that breaks through the inner darkness of ignorance and illusion and sweeps away obstacles and devilish functions. It is also the courageous lion's roar that issues forth from the Buddhahood one reveals as a result of chanting. Okay, so what's the significance of that again? Chanting is what manifests all of this. It unlocks it, and it's the only thing that'll continue to unlock it. Stop chanting, and it'll go away. It is not something that you know, that you learn and know. No. The capacity to remember that kind of wisdom goes away as well.
Right.
Frankly speaking, you won't have the ability to think the way you used to. All right? So, chanting like a galloping horse, which is an issue with some people. I think we probably chant like we're at a racetrack. Okay? Rio makes sure that it's like off the charts. The speedometer's kind of pegged all the way. The chanting of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is not only a voice of faith, the voice of faith of ordinary people. And that's what he's expressing when we chant with that vigor. Okay? That's correct. It is not only the voice of faith of ordinary people, it is also the voice of Buddhahood.
Yep.
For that reason, we should always try to chant resoundingly with a vibrant and vigorous rhythm like that of a galloping horse. Maybe not in the stretch. But it's good. It can also be said that the chanting of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is an action by which we affirm that we ourselves are inherently entities of Myoho Renge-kyo. It represents a struggle, because it's always a struggle to return to the original state continuously. It represents a struggle to return to our true original selves, which is Buddhahood, and tap the innate life force that we have possessed from time without beginning, our Buddha nature. Top of page 27, second column. Bridging the gap between Buddhas and ordinary people. Okay, and what's the issue there? What's the difference between a Buddha and an ordinary person?
The Buddha is enlightened.
Yeah, but what's he enlightened to?
awaken to the reality that you are the Buddha, exactly.
Awaken to the fact that he is the Buddha. That's the whole point, okay? Chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo allows one to come to this understanding. When at last, okay, one finally grasps that one is a Buddha, then one is a Buddha, okay? From the OTT, point 1, chapter 16. Says again, bridging the gap between Buddhas and ordinary people. The only gap is this understanding and perception that you really are an entity of the mystic law. Right now, not someday when you graduate from all this or have no more problems, okay? Right. This perceived separation between the 9 worlds and the world of Buddhahood is demolished by the Lotus Sutra doctrine of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. In other words, the teaching that the 9 worlds have the potential for Buddhahood and that Buddhahood retains the 9 worlds from the selection of time, when he's quoting Tentai, whose interpretation this is. Here we can see the immense importance of the Lotus Sutra principle of the mutual possession of the 10 worlds brought forth by Tentai. Nichiren opened the way to actualizing this latter principle, which is the key to attaining Buddhahood in this lifetime, by establishing the practice of chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. This constitutes, in its fullest and most complete form, the teaching of Buddhism and seeks enlightenment for all human beings. Why did I just mention Tentai several times as I went into Ichinen Sanzen? Whenever he mentioned Ichinen Sanzen, I qualified thanks to Tentai. Because again, the Daishonin views Buddhism as Shakyamuni's Buddhism, Tentai's Buddhism, and his Buddhism. Okay? So do understand that. Tentai's Buddhism says stuff that Shakyamuni's Buddhism does not say on the surface. No. That the Daishonin quotes all the time, and if you didn't know it came from Tentai, you'd think it was the Daishonin now making this statement for the first time. No, you go read the little dots, the little number. No, he's quoting Tentai all the time. But then he's quoting a further step, because Shakyamuni was for the former day, Tentai's the Buddha of the middle day, and the Daishonin is the Buddha of the latter day. Okay, so that's why I always mention Tentai. Whenever we talk about Ichinen Sanzen, and they say it comes from the Lotus Sutra, in the Lotus Sutra. It's in the Lotus Sutra if you know how to read it the way that Tentai read it, to be able to extrapolate those 10 worlds. But those 10 worlds were not there before. Okay? Those were 10 direct worlds of the 10 directions in the Lotus Sutra. Okay, manifesting our inner power that transcends us. What's that mean? What's our inner power that transcends us? What does transcend us mean?
Transform, yeah.
No, transcends, it goes beyond. Doesn't transform, because what it actually does is it goes beyond what seemingly we are to what we really are.
Upgrade.
Huh? It's not upgrade. It's the revealing of the grade. That's the point. This upgrade is nothing more than understanding, oh, I already have a college diploma and a master's degree. Okay? That's really what it is. Okay? So he says, manifesting our inner power that transcends us. What is that then?
Being a Buddha.
That's the original state. That's your original identity. Manifesting your inner power. What is your inner power? That of Buddhahood. Where did that come from? Nowhere! It's yours. Okay? It's part of the original state. Okay? Original enlightenment is there just like fundamental darkness is there. Okay? Everybody's with me?
Yeah.
All right, so the mystic law is the fundamental law of the universe. It's universality. But don't forget, the mystic law contains everything. All right? Even fundamental darkness. Understand that. He's going to clarify all this in a minute. The mystic law is the fundamental law of the universe. Its universality transcends our individual selves, as indicated by its description as the mystic truth that is originally inherent in all living beings. However, the mystic law also exists within the lives within our lives. It both resides within us and transcends us. Put another way, the mystic law is inherent in our lives because it is the all-embracing law that pervades everything in the universe, the original state. Okay? That's what pervades the whole universe. Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is the original state. The last one on page 27, second column. Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is your life. Mr. Toda is also often spoke of the spirit of faith we need in order to perceive the mystic law within us, saying, you need to be resolved that Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is your own life. Or propagating the mystic law in the latter day means firmly believing that your life is nothing apart from Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. You notice how President Toda doesn't say Myoho Renge-kyo. He said Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Okay, this is the spirit Nichiren teaches in the passage. When you chant Myoho Renge-kyo and recite Renge, you must summon a deep faith that Myoho Renge-kyo is your life itself. Okay? Everybody's with me on all those points? We go on to chapter 4. On page 28, all right, starts out by saying, transforming our fundamental attitude, refusing to live in endless, painful austerity. Okay? What did that mean?
Shit happens.
Lots of shit happens to everybody. But that's not really what it's talking about, the fact that shit happens. What's it really talking about? Transforming our fundamental attitude. Is it that shit happens, or is it knowing why shit happens? Expecting why shit happens. Being able to answer why shit might even happen. Well, how do I anticipate shit that could happen? Okay? That's Buddha wisdom. All right? Transforming our fundamental attitude is going from an attitude of the 9 worlds to an attitude of the 10th world.
Yes.
Okay? It says refusing to live in endless, painful austerity. What did that just say?
You suffer as a
If
common
you
order.
practice within, if you chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, if you practice within the Soka Gakkai, or you practice in any way, shape, or form, if you don't ever come to the understanding of what that 10th world attitude is and perception is, your life and your practice will have been an endless, painful austerity because you will have never understood the teaching and what it's saying and how to utilize it. You will have gone always beggar outside to the scroll that's in the altar, beggar outside scroll in the altar. Do you understand? So that's what he's talking about. Refusing to live in endless, painful austerity is making the determination that you will achieve Buddhahood in your present form and doing so. And doing so. Showing that it's not theoretical. Showing other people that it can be done. Being the Buddha in your present form means saying you're the Buddha in your present form and not being embarrassed to say that or having the least bit of doubt about whether or not it's the case. Okay? And frankly, obviously, if I'm the Buddha, then you all are. That would have to be my perception for it to be correct, because I'm not perfect, so I couldn't expect anything more out of any of you than I can expect out of me. Faith is all I can expect out of me. That's all I can expect out of you. We all have the same potentiality then.
Right.
Because that's the equalizer. It's really just faith. It's not about who you are, what karmic form you're in right now. You created that karma for a reason. All right? Or it got created for a reason. All right, continuing with the Gosho. And you can see why each one of these chapters takes so long to get through. You must, going to the Gosho, you must never think that any of the 80,000 sacred teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha's lifetime, or any of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions and 3 existences are outside yourself. Your practice of the Buddhist teachings will not relieve you of the sufferings of birth and death in the least unless you perceive the true nature of your life. Now I'm reading from the Gosho itself. Hi, Madame. No, it's good to see you. They hadn't heard your voice yet. They might have thought you skipped it. If you seek enlightenment outside yourself, then you're performing even 10,000 practices and 10,000 good deeds would be in vain. It is like the case of a poor man who spends night and day counting his neighbor's wealth but gains not even half a coin. That is why Tentai School's commentary states, unless one perceives the nature of one's life, one cannot eradicate one's grave offenses. So that comes from the Tentai school. That's part of the Buddhism of sowing, though, because Daishonin has embraced it and qualified it as this is the truth. This is part of the true teaching. This passage implies that unless one perceives the nature of one's life, the truth of that, one's practice, which is supposed to be about perceiving that truth, because you refuse to listen to what the teaching is and accept it as it is. You think there must be something more. I have to study a little more. I still can't get, how could I already be just like I am the Buddha? Okay, I'm not perfect. Aren't Buddhists like gods? No. Okay, so it says this passage implies that unless one perceives the nature of one's life, one's practice will become an endless painful austerity, because you'll never attain Buddhahood. Therefore, such students of Buddhism are condemned as non-Buddhists. Generally, it's because that's how they think already. They don't perceive the truth as being exactly what the teaching says. They add their own little additional interpretive analysis, okay, which is really a huge mistake. So Tantai's great concentration and insight states that although they study Buddhism, their views are no different from those of non-Buddhists, because they don't really conform to what their studying says. That's their opinion that they're really relying on. Whether you chant the Buddha's name, recite the sutra, or merely offer flowers and incense, all of your virtuous acts will implant benefits and roots of goodness in your life. With this conviction, you should strive in faith. So starting on page 29 with President Ikeda. The character Myo of Myoho, or mystic law, has three meanings: to be fully endowed, to open, and to revive. Now here's the cool thing. So it has three meanings. All right? He says, these three meanings are all implicit in chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. So what did that just say? Let me start again. The character Myo of Myoho, or mystic law, has three meanings: to be fully endowed, to open up, and to revive. These three meanings are all implicit in chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. What's he saying there? That by chanting, all three of those things happen simultaneously. They're not just some sort of like dictionary definition of theoretically what might be occurring when you chant. It's saying absolutely when you chant it. Well, he says, in other words, the chanting of Nam Myoho Renge Kyo contains the Myo of perfect endowment, meaning that it's the single law of Myoho Renge Kyo encompasses all phenomena. 2, the Myo of transformation that opens the world of Buddhahood in the lives of the beings of the 9 worlds that have faith in the teaching. It doesn't say that, but that is a caveat. The worlds from the hell through Bodhisattva. And 3, the Myo of great benefit, whereby a life filled with suffering is revived as a life of great tranquility and joy. Now, very carefully, what does this last Myo, where he says the Myo of great benefit, whereby a life filled with suffering is revived as a life of great tranquility and joy? What is he referring to there then? We start chanting and we become rich and we don't have any more debts or illnesses or problems or challenges, and that's how we come to this revived state. What revives us? When he says the Myo of great benefit, what is the great benefit? Buddhahood. Buddhahood. Why? Because Buddhahood is what allows it, without changing anything going on in that life, for a life filled with suffering to be revived by the truth. to be able to perceive the truth and thereby experience legitimate tranquility and joy even in the midst of something that otherwise might be causing hell in the absence of that wisdom, okay, and life condition. So he says, our lives themselves are entities of the mystic law, but only when we recognize it and bring it forth. All right? I added that part. Our lives themselves are entities of the mystic law. Therefore, they are fully endowed with all phenomena. With all phenomena, all the good or all the shit. Fundamental darkness and the enlightened Dharma. He says, let's go. Well, what does that mean then? Your life is filled with all phenomena. He says, fundamental darkness is part of your life. It's the part of the original state. And the enlightened Dharma nature is also part of the original state. Earthly desires and the 10th world of enlightenment are also part of that state, in the 9 worlds and the world of Buddhahood. All of these exist within us. So it's whatever we're bringing forth. It's not something about whether it's there or not. All right? All exist within us. For precisely that reason, we can carry out a mystic and fundamental inner revolution, changing darkness into light, kindling the flame of enlightenment by burning the firewood of earthly desires, and thereby manifesting the world of Buddhahood in our lives and in the lives of the 9 worlds. Pardon me, and thereby manifesting the world of Buddhahood in our lives of the 9 worlds. So, but what did that just say? No one's beyond redemption. No one's so bad that this doesn't apply to them. No one is in a state where they cannot resolve circumstances based on this inner transformation that turns a life filled with suffering into one filled with tranquility and joy. Okay? Right. So, then the key to achieving this profound inner transformation is our hearts. Our fundamental attitude or mindset. So, but what's that really referring to when he talks about it? It's our hearts and our fundamental attitude and mindset. What aspect of that is the key? The key to achieving this profound inner transformation is our hearts, our fundamental attitude or mindset.
Whether you're a Buddha.
Faith. Right. Whether you're a Buddha or not. Is the teaching correct? Is what I'm trying to do doable? All right? The key to achieving this profound inner transformation is our faith in the fact that what we're doing is correct. Okay? And you can demand to see actual proof to validate that. Gohan's not afraid of your challenges. Do you have the guts to put them out there? Do you have the faith to sustain what's necessary to bring them forth and manifest? No problem then. He says, okay, so therefore Nichiren Daishonin warns on attaining Buddhahood in this lifetime, if you think the law is outside yourself, you're embracing not the mystic law, but an inferior teaching, because you pray to something outside yourself, you don't have that capacity. It's up to that thing that's outside of you that's the determinant. Not you are the determinant. This is taking full, absolute responsibility for every element and aspect of everything that you experience as a human being. It says, when we diligently exert ourselves in chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, based on this admonition. So what did he just say there again? If you want all the shit I'm talking about here, this is not casual. He says, when we diligently exert ourselves. What does that mean? What does diligently mean? Duta.
You need action.
It not only action, but action that is consistent and consistent and consistent and never ending.
Yeah.
Okay? It's not like, oh, I'm in a high life condition, let me go be a good guy for a while, and now I'm in a low life condition, I don't fucking, pardon my language again, I don't practice now. Okay? So that's the whole point. When we diligently exert ourselves in chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo based on this admonition, always remembering that a change in our own hearts or minds is crucial, taking on the responsibility and saying, instead of saying, Gohonzon, where's my benefit? Understanding we are the Gohonzon. What's going to create the benefit is us. It's not a piece of paper we're chanting to. All right? The three meanings of Myo will clearly manifest themselves in our lives. So we don't have to be a rocket scientist, cleric kind of religious thinker. That's the beautiful thing. Myo automatically opens up. Perfect endowment, transformative, it opens and it revives. Okay, continuing. Then, needless to say, on the top of page 29, needless to say, the law contained in the practice of chanting spread by Nichiren is truly wondrous, but even the power of this wondrous law cannot fully manifest in a life clouded by ignorance. Now, what's ignorance? It's not stupidity. It's a lack of understanding the truth. It's the absence of understanding the truth. That's ignorance. You haven't been taught the truth, okay? So it says, but even the power of this wondrous law cannot fully manifest in a life clouded by ignorance, clouded by a lack of understanding of the truth, which is that Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is the correct teaching, right? Ignorance, or the absence of that knowledge of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, is the inner darkness that prevents us from believing in the mystic law and staying focused on our own Buddha nature and that of others. And why have I got these two things circled? It prevents us from staying focused. It prevents us from sustaining the daily approach that's necessary to make that 10th world manifest whenever we actually desire it to. The practice of chanting enables us to break through this darkness and vibrantly bring forth our Buddhahood. All right? Battling our fundamental darkness, this inner struggle, is the essence of chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, because that's how you chant for 50 or 60 or 70 or till the last moment of your life, years, right? Studying Buddhism, yet succumbing to non-Buddhist thinking. This is a very important one because I hear this constantly coming out of people's mouths. They're practicing, the same Buddhism that I am, but what's coming out of their mouth from study is not what I'm getting out of it, okay? So studying Buddhism, yet succumbing to non-Buddhist thinking. And that usually, in my experience, occurs from refiguring what it really means because it couldn't really mean what it says. Okay?
Yes.
That's exactly where it comes from. It comes from doubt rather than faith. When you feel that you have to rationalize what's being said to take a little bit of the edge off because that's a little over the top. That's when you make the mistake. A Buddha doesn't look at it that way. All right? Because this is the teaching of a Buddha. This is the teaching of all Buddhas according to Nichiren, right? So you've got to look at it that way. So it says, in the passage we are studying this time, is chapter 4. Nichiren Daishonin strongly cautions, and when he strongly cautions, that means that's an admonition for you to take seriously. You must never think that any of the 80,000 sacred teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha's lifetime or any of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions and 3 existences are outside yourself. Okay, so he says it's very important that you understand that this is all about you. It's not about something outside of you. He says President Ikeda continues, the use of the word never here is deeply significant because he does use the word never. So what does that mean? If you ever let that thought seep in or think that way, you're absolutely incorrect. You're creating slander. That's why he says never. He says never because that's slanderous. And why is it slander? Because in that simple confusion, even if it's from a low life condition, you're denying your own fundamental Buddhahood. You're saying it doesn't exist. You're saying it can't be brought forth. Again, in the passage we are studying this time, Nichiren strongly cautions you must never think that any of the 80,000 sacred teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha's lifetime or any of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions and 3 existences. So that would be what? Teachings of the Buddha. that they're outside of yourself. You must never, because that would say you're not the Buddha. You're not capable of those teachings. The minute you disqualify from being capable of those teachings, you just made yourself disqualified. Okay? You're the one that limits whether or not you attain Buddhahood in your present form. The use of the word never here is deeply significant. This passage explains that the entirety of Buddhism is contained within our own lives. Nichiren concludes that 80,000 sacred teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha's lifetime and the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions and 3 existences are all phenomena inherent within us. So none of this stuff is outside of us. None of this stuff is new. None of these teachings are new. None of this take on this stuff is new. Okay? It's already an inherent aspect of our life condition as people of Mapo. Understand that. We're people of Mapo. We're not people of the middle day or the former day. We do have a different thought. We do have a different process of reconciling all of this in terms of challenge. We're not disciples of Shakyamuni. Okay? We're not disciples of Tentai. We're disciples of Nichiren. Nichiren goes on to say that as long as we seek enlightenment outside ourselves, through these 80,000 teachings of the Buddha that we can get our hands on and read the wisdom of the Buddha as exists from something outside ourselves. That's what he's talking about. Nichiren goes on to say, as long as we seek enlightenment outside ourselves, even our performing 10,000 practices and 10,000 good deeds, meaning all the practices expounded in Shakyamuni's lifetime teachings, and believing in the protections of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas throughout the 3 existences, meaning the benevolent functions of the universe, will be in vain. So what did that just say? If we think any of them are outside of us, we just lost the power to pull them from where they really reside, which is inside us. Because we were not even looking there. Okay? Does the teaching say that they're outside of us? No, it says they're inside of us, but we still look outside of ourselves. Outside of us. When the teaching says they're inside of us, but we still look outside of us, what is that? Slender. Okay? And you wonder why you didn't get all your benefit. Okay? So, will be in vain, because it's not going to lead you to where you want to go. You might get benefits for a while, but they'll lead you off into a path of blackness. You'll go Titan. You'll be by yourself. Doing so is as pointless as counting a neighbor's wealth, he states, because we personally gain nothing from doing so. Nichiren then cites a passage from a Tentai school commentary which states, unless one perceives the nature of one's life, which is the truth of one's life, one cannot eradicate one's grave offenses. Unless I understand that I am the Buddha and that these obstacles are a reflection of my mission, but at the same time my karma, and I'm not in a process of eradicating them, they don't get eradicated. Right? Deliberately creating the appropriate karma, we still created the appropriate karma. We don't get around that causality. Right? Do you understand? You're with me? All right. If we fail to grasp this point, Nichiren warns all of the practices and good deeds we might perform while seeking enlightenment outside ourselves will ultimately become an endless, painful austerity, because they never lead to that resolution of faith. It says, what does it mean to say that unless we perceive the nature of our lives, we cannot eradicate our grave offenses? Grave offenses here can be taken to indicate fundamental darkness. We can never get rid of it, so we can become the Buddha, which is the source of all evil, and not get rid of it. Minimize it, pardon me. You never get rid of fundamental darkness completely. Even the Buddha has fundamental darkness. The grave offense of slander, denigrating the law or the correct teaching of Buddhism, or those that are embracing that correct teaching of Buddhism, arises from fundamental darkness or ignorance. So, he says, the grave offense of slander, denigrating the law or the correct teaching of Buddhism, arises from fundamental darkness or ignorance, not understanding the truth. So, we're in our stupidity, we create slander. he says here, in Tiantai Buddhism, so what did that just say?
Tiantai Buddhism.
There's such a thing as Tiantai Buddhism, okay? And we view it as Tiantai Buddhism because the Daishonin viewed it as Tiantai Buddhism, all right? In Tiantai Buddhism, it's the Buddhism of the middle day. In Tiantai Buddhism, it is only possible to eradicate this ignorance through the practice of observing one's mind, getting all the way through to the Makashikan, right? Great concentration and insight, right? He says, in Tiantai Buddhism, it is only possible to eradicate this ignorance of the true nature of our life through the practice of observing the mind, which is Makashikan. In other words, through wisdom. In Nichiren Buddhism, what's that say?
Nichiren Buddhism.
That means there's such a thing as Nichiren Buddhism.
Okay.
Okay? In Nichiren Buddhism, however, fundamental darkness can be overcome by the sharp sword of faith, in accord with the principle of substituting faith for wisdom. What is that? That's believing in the teaching before you have the wisdom to perceive it actually as it is to be perceived as a Buddha. All right? So he says this is the essence of the practice of chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, because we do first and we see the effect of what we do. To recap, if we seek enlightenment outside of us, we are not pursuing the path of observing one's mind. We're not perceiving the inner element that all of this is actualized and based upon, which enables us to overcome the fundamental evil or ignorance the fundamental evil of ignorance or darkness. Okay, so this observation of the mind. What is that observation of the mind? How do we do observation of the mind? How do we do Makashikan? Chanting Daimoku to the Gohonzon. That's that contemplative. That's that thing we were talking about a minute ago. That communication. That commune with the Gohonzon. If we seek enlightenment outside of us, we are not pursuing the path of observing one's mind, which enables us to overcome the fundamental darkness or fundamental evil of ignorance or darkness. In that case, all our efforts and good deeds to attain enlightenment will be lacking the vital ingredient. They will be every bit as futile as counting a neighbor's vast riches. Okay, because they are lacking the vital ingredient of faith. Moreover, because none of these efforts will help us eradicate our ignorance, they will only become an endless, painful austerity. Does everybody understand that? You can't manifest Buddhahood prior to manifesting Buddhahood. So if you just do it based on your own nine-world wisdom and your own little nine-world way of looking at things, you're going to end up at a lot of dead ends. Okay? They may seem like they are well lit in advance of you starting out, but by the time you get to the end, there's no light left. Okay? So again, let me just, to recap. Page 30, last paragraph, next to last paragraph. To recap, if we seek enlightenment outside of us, we are not pursuing the path of observing one's mind, which enables us to overcome the fundamental evil of ignorance or darkness. In that case, all our efforts and good deeds to attain enlightenment will be lacking the vital ingredient. They will be every bit as futile as counting a neighbor's vast riches. Moreover, because none of these efforts will help us eradicate our ignorance, they will only become an endless, painful austerity. This battle against ignorance, at the very bottom of page 30, first column, is the heart of Buddhism. This battle against ignorance is the heart of Buddhism. It is said that Shakyamuni's enlightenment lay in identifying darkness or ignorance as the fundamental cause of the suffering of birth, aging, sickness, and death, as well as in expounding the way for overcoming this ignorance. Therefore, as long as we seek the path to enlightenment outside our own lives, through a priest or a guru or even a sensei, sensei can teach you things by virtue of what they say, but if you don't do what they say, you don't get shit for listening to them.
Right.
All right? Therefore, as long as the path to enlightenment, we seek the path to enlightenment outside our lives, whatever practices and good deeds we carry out will deviate from the true essence of Buddhism, which is what has to be passed on, and that's why it's the only thing that can survive. That's why you will always fail if you're not doing the right thing, because the wrong thing can't survive. All right, that's supporting evil. Accordingly, Nichiren says such students of Buddhism are condemned as non-Buddhists because they don't view the teaching of Buddhism correctly. To seek enlightenment outside our lives is to be defeated by fundamental darkness, second column, page 30. An important point in this writing is that we as Nichiren Buddhists also run the risk of falling into non-Buddhist ways of thinking if we seek the law outside our own lives. Oh my God, what did I just say? What did I just say, man? The important point in this writing, he's talking about this Gosho, is that as Nichiren Buddhists, we as disciples of Nichiren, run the risk. What's run the risk means?
Yeah, taking a chance.
It means it's just a possibility, okay, that you could fall into non-Buddhist thinking. Ways of thinking if you seek the law outside your own life. So if you perceive the Gohonzon as this wish-granting jewel that's a magical, mystical object outside of yourself, that you're constantly praying to the object to save you because it's endowed with some supernatural power. And that's what you're trying to call forth, is the mercy of your prayer being answered. Okay? That's what he's talking about. There are people that practice within Soka Gakkai that still view the Gohonzon in this way.
Yeah.
Okay? So President Ikeda is telling us this is existing right now. This is current. This isn't a possibility. This has already happened. This has already led others down a path that I'm trying to straighten everybody out on by directly teaching the correct teaching that was taught to me by Sensei Toda. Do you understand? That's why he's writing all this in this manner. Okay? He's definitely not writing as though, here's an outline, get started, now go talk to your senior leader, he'll nail that down. There's never any of that in there, is there? This is all about you go fix this with the Gohonzon through your own Daimoku by emergence of your own Buddha nature. Don't count on others. You do it yourself. An important point in this writing is that as Nichiren Buddhists also run the risk of falling into non-Buddhist ways of thinking, judging other people, slandering other people, having attitude about other people. Okay? Judging other people's faith. Telling people what they should do or shouldn't do. I don't know anywhere in the Gosho where it says that beyond slandering the law. But there are certain things people would say, oh, you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that. Your behavior is this. Your behavior should be that. You should dress a certain way before you come to a meeting. You should dress. There's all kinds of rules that are nowhere to be found, that are enforced, that are verbalized, that are pushed down people. All right? Hence, as Nichiren Daishonin's disciples, we must always bear in mind his admonition. You must never think that any of the Buddhist teachings are outside of yourselves, okay? Or how you sit, or whatever. The chanting of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is a practice, because you have to understand that forever in Japanese temples, you kneeled on tatami mats, right? Do you know that? Okay. You know what a tatami mat is, right? It's like the little woven thing, and they come in blocks. Okay. That was the standard flooring in all of Japan, and nobody had chairs. Nobody sat on chairs. Everybody on it kneeled on tatami mats. Okay. So that when the first kaikons were built, and the best way to get everybody like as close as you can cram as many people in a room is to have no chairs. Is to have the physical distance to actually be how squeezed everybody is. Okay, so understand the reason I say how you sit. We in America had never experienced that. We had to sit on our knees. We had to chant kneeling on our knees for hours to the point that we couldn't think about anything about Buddhahood. We were in pain. We were suffering. We were saying, why the hell we got to sit like this? Okay? There was huge opposition to us switching to having chairs.
Wow.
Okay? Because that's not how Nichiren did it. Nichiren never sat on a goddamn chair. Okay, that was the thinking of the priesthood. If I don't have to sit in a chair, why do you got to sit in a chair? Okay? Those are the kinds of things I'm talking about. Are there any goshos on chairs that I've read to you so far? Do you know any goshos on chairs?
No.
There aren't any goshos on chairs. I've read enough goshos. I know that. Okay? That's why I brought the thing. It's not about how you sit. Okay? Understand what real faith is. All right? Real faith is the do not begrudge your life and live for Kozen Rufu. That's real faith. Okay, so the chanting on page, I'm still on 30, right? I didn't get to get over here yet. Okay. The chanting of Nam Myoho Renge Kyo is a practice for revealing the originally inherent mystic truth that exists in all people in achieving Buddhahood in this lifetime. It is an incomparably wonderful practice in the sense that it represents the means by which all living beings can gain enlightenment. If, however, we forget Nichiren's admonition to never seek the law outside of us, then no matter how hard we practice, we will lose sight of the correct path to universal enlightenment and effectively wind up practicing a non-Buddhist teaching. Okay? That's why Nichiren is so strict on this point, because it is a very strict point. I mean, in the U.S., a lot of people kind of practice as though they might still be Christians, frankly speaking. They're way into taking everybody else's... Okay, so it depends. Where do you live, right? The essence of our practice is to perceive the true nature of our lives. What did he just say? The essence of our practice is to come to the understanding that we are Buddhists exactly as we are. Okay, so the essence of our practice, the reason that we practice, is to perceive the true nature of our life. If we do that, then we continue for the sake of others because we understand that we're bodhisattvas of the earth, right? Yes. To do this, we must wage an inner struggle because fundamental darkness is trying to constantly stop us. If we allow ourselves to be defeated by the 3 obstacles and 4 devils, we cannot bring forth our enlightenment. And I said that last week. Why? Why is it so important that we not be defeated by the 3 obstacles and 4 devils? Why will that keep us from bringing forth our enlightenment? We will not attain Buddhahood if we allow them to defeat us. Right. Why? That is not bad karma. That is not karmic retribution. The 3 obstacles and the 4 devils only come out when someone is approaching the attainment of Buddhahood in their present form. All right? So understand that. When the 3 obstacles and 4 devils attack you, the wise rejoice while the foolish retreat. That's what Daishonin says. It's that understanding. Now that is so counterintuitive, it's almost painful. Try to be going through a huge struggle, and be grateful for the suffering that you're experiencing, okay? That's faith, though. When you have the faith to go, oh, shit, that's right. That attitude will suddenly make that suffering stop. It just ends. I don't know how to explain it. It's just gone. Like that is gone. And suddenly you're smiling, and then next thing you know, you're chuckling at how stupid you are. Okay? And there's no greater joy than chuckling at how freaking stupid you are. Okay? There's no greater joy, because you already think you're pretty smart. That's when you know that's good. It's good stuff. Okay? So that's why that's important. He says, that is, at the bottom of page 30, going on to page 31, why battling the darkness of our ignorance within us is an unavoidable part of the process of becoming a Buddha. There's no way around it. So understand that, be prepared for it, and okay, so that means I'm becoming a Buddha. Good. In other words, whether we continuously battle our innate dark ignorance is the single most important determinant in whether we attain Buddhahood. In other words, President Kate is saying as a summation, whether we continuously battle our innate ignorance is the single most important determinant in whether we attain Buddhahood. What did that just say? That this process is continuous. He says, whether we continuously battle, if you wouldn't have to continuously battle if it wasn't continuously coming. Right?
Right.
Okay, so he says, as such, it is something we must never forget. We must never forget, because it's the basis of getting there. By engaging in this struggle, we can reveal the Buddha wisdom within our lives that perceives this truth and changes poison into medicine, and thereby confront and overcome our ignorance. That's when the grin comes. He says, but we fail to undertake this struggle. But if we fail to undertake this struggle, ignorance will shroud and conceal our Buddha nature. We'll walk around confused, pissed off, and still suffering. Ignorance deepens and exacerbates, and I say pissed off because I get angry all the time. Maybe you get depressed. I get more. Ignorance deepens and exacerbates. What's that mean? What's exacerbate? Sounds close to something else, but it's not.
Make it worse.
Right. Okay, so ignorance deepens and makes worse the 5 delusive inclinations of greed, anger, foolishness, and arrogance. Greed, anger, foolishness, arrogance, and doubt within us. That is what happens if we succumb to the erroneous view that the law is outside ourselves. Faith for attaining Buddhahood in this lifetime, page 31. We're getting close. Naturally, the Gohonzon, the object of devotion in Nichiren Buddhism, is itself is great beyond measure. From a passage from Nichikan's 6-volume writings that states, even someone who has not yet aroused true faith will still receive immense benefit through connecting with the correct object of devotion, namely the Gohonzon. The true lineage of faith we inherit in the Soka Gakkai is what opens up this infinite and boundless power of the Gohonzon. Faith, as practiced by the Soka Gakkai, entails an active struggle to manifest the mystic law in our lives. It also produces clear actual proof of benefit. When we advance together with the Soka Gakkai, we naturally come to internalize the correct practice of faith as taught by Nichiren Daishonin. All right? But I want to qualify this again. The true lineage of faith we inherit in the Soka Gakkai is what opens up this infinite and boundless power of the Gohonzon. Okay? Do you understand what that's saying, though? Without the practice that we practice, that was initiated through the process of just doing it, from Makaguchi through Toda to Ikeda, and now it's actually being passed by Ikeda directly to us. Do understand, all of this stuff I've been reading for all this years is the baton being passed directly to you by Daisaku Ikeda. Okay? Because he's speaking directly to you about how he would encourage you if he was sitting across from you. How he would encourage you to be able to emulate his life and the results, the actual proof. Okay? So he's saying, the true lineage of faith we inherit in the Soka Gakkai is what opens up. So this true lineage is this faith that's not based on popularity, it's not based on position, it's not based on authority, it's based on humanism, it's based on Buddhahood, it's based on Buddha wisdom. Do you understand? You'll find, if you find in the organization people behaving and lacking in that, you must be the living example of how to behave properly then, because Daisaku Ikeda is trying to teach you, since they obviously didn't get it. Do you understand? All right. So the true lineage of faith we inherit in the Soka Gakkai, which he's saying to all of my Soka Gakkai members, this is what I got from President Toda, and this is what I'm giving to you right now. That power, all that stuff I've been talking about is what opens up this infinite and boundless power of the Gohonzon. Because no one had ever seen this infinite power, boundless power of the Gohonzon before the Soka Gakkai. Do you think if the Nichiren Shoshu, all the members were getting the kind of benefit that the Soka Gakkai members got, that Nichiren Shoshu would have been the smallest school? No! No! That's why I'm saying nobody did it this way until the Soka Gakkai. I've done my homework. Nobody did it this way until the Soka Gakkai. All right? So that's, though, what he's saying. He just says it isn't because we're the Soka Gakkai. It's because we practice with this kind of faith that President Toda taught to us, that he says he learned from President Makaguchi, that he came to realize fully what it was really expressing while he was in prison. Faith as practiced by the Soka Gakkai entails an active struggle. An active struggle means that we don't think that we're going to make it be tomorrow is going to be problem-free. We're not going to hit heaven with no problems. Heaven is when you kick the devil's ass every day. It's not having the devil never be there. So he says, faith as practiced by the Soka Gakkai entails an active struggle to manifest the mystic law in our lives. What's that saying? An active struggle to be Buddhas in our present form exactly as we are. It also produces clear and actual proof of benefits, because when you're the Buddha in daily life, you have actual proof. Sorry, it's the truth. It's not arrogance, it's not. When President Makaguchi said it's like a magpie mocking a phoenix, talking about somebody giving him shit. He wasn't being arrogant. He was calling it out for exactly what it was. There's nothing wrong with that. All right? When we advance together with the Soka Gakkai, is that not what we're all doing, even though we're not at a Soka Gakkai meeting?
Right.
Okay?
Yes.
Listen to how he writes. He writes all-inclusively, frankly, all the time.
Yes.
I always pick up on it because I'm a little sensitive about that. He says, when we advance together with the Soka Gakkai, we naturally come to internalize the correct practice of faith as taught by Nichiren Daishonin, because we practice the way Josei Toda did, we practice the way Daisaku Ikeda did. That's when we advance together with the Soka Gakkai. When we are, however we're doing it, doing what that is.
Yes.
Do you understand? Therefore, those who sincerely chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo to the Gohonzon and practice and participate in activities with the Soka Gakkai cannot fail to become Buddhists. Now, how can he say that? He says, therefore, those who sincerely chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo to the Gohonzon and practice and participate in activities with the Soka Gakkai cannot fail to become Buddhists. What's sincerely?
Faith without doubt.
Faith in
Doubt-free.
his teaching. Who's teaching you now? Daisaku Ikeda. Okay? Whose teaching is he basing his teaching on? Faith in Toda's teaching. Okay? So he said, when we sincerely chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, the way our mentors are showing and helping and allowing us to shortcut to, and instead of trying to figure out, do they know what they're talking about? We do it the way they said to do it because we already respect what they were able to accomplish. Okay? The proof of actual fact has already been manifested in their lives. That's why we're going, hey, I want some of that. Okay? Therefore, those who sincerely chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo to the Gohonzon and practice and participate in activities with the Soka Gakkai cannot fail to become Buddhists. Okay? Includes me, includes all of you. All right? The purpose of faith is to freely, wow, what did that mean? To freely realize our full potential and to shine in our own unique way. The depth of the sentences that he states are just profound. What did that just say?
Nobody can teach.
Nobody can tell you to write. No priests saying you may not. No leaders saying you may not. Frankly speaking. Do you understand? Right, he says, that's why it's important to keep advancing and challenging ourselves to help the Spirit. I will exert myself in practice. I will exert myself in my practice. Let me start over here. Because this is all, run it all together with the correct attitude. That's the theme here. Okay. Therefore, when we sincerely chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo to the Gohonzon and practice and participate in activities with the Soka Gakkai, we cannot fail to become Buddhists. And by the way, all of you that are watching this, you're all reading this because I'm reading Daisaku Ikeda, not because I'm talking. You're participating in a Soka Gakkai activity, whether you understand that or not. Therefore, when those who sincerely chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo to the Gohonzon and practice and participate in activities with the Soka Gakkai cannot fail to become Buddhists. The purpose of faith is to freely realize our full potential and shine in our own unique way. And to shine in our own unique way. That's why it's important to keep advancing and challenging ourselves. To have the spirit, I will exert myself in practice. I will deepen my faith. I will do my best as a member of the Soka Gakkai. This is the certain path to attaining Buddhahood in this lifetime. With this understanding, let's concretely and strictly apply to our daily practice Nichiren's admonition. If you think the law is outside yourself, you are embracing not the mystic law, but an inferior teaching. To seek the mystic law somewhere outside of us essentially amounts to evading responsibility for our own lives. It's to say, I didn't create this karma, somebody else must have. Whoever did, fix it for me. Okay? Practicing Nichiren Buddhism means not being swayed by this and that. It means constructing a self that is solid and resolute, like towering Mount Fuji. Really, like, I'm a badass, I'm going to kick your ass to the devil of the sixth heaven. All right? But if we neglect this task and focus our energies somewhere else before we're even aware of it, we can end up veering into the path of externally seeking the law. For example, if we chant to the Gohonzon but always blame other people or our environment for our circumstances, we are avoiding the challenge of tackling our inner darkness or ignorance. Let me say that again to everybody that I know blames other people, which is all of us. For example, if we chant to the Gohonzon but always blame other people or our environment, what does he mean, or our environment?
People around us.
I wasn't born good enough. I wasn't born this way or that way. Mom and dad weren't rich enough. I didn't get a good enough education because I couldn't afford to go to the right school. It's all the other stuff that we say we don't have any responsibility for, that we have absolute responsibility for. That's the point. For example, if we chant to the Gohonzon but always blame other people or our environment for our circumstances, we are avoiding the challenge of tackling our inner darkness or ignorance, which accepts our karma. By doing so, we are seeking enlightenment outside of us. By changing ourselves on a more profound level, we can begin to improve our situation. Chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is the driving force for that change and bringing about that wisdom. Everybody's with me, right? Mm-hmm. It is also important that we don't fall into the trap of practicing dependent faith. What's dependent faith?
Every time you have troubles, you go to ask for relief.
How you ask for that relief? Yes, but okay. He says, the practice Also, it is important that we don't fall into the trap or practice of dependent faith, where we pin our hopes on having our prayers answered through the divine or transcendent powers of gods or Buddhas. We don't look at Hashimana, the sun goddess, or the four heavenly kings, or some other objects on the Gohonzon and think that's what is significant. Yeah. All right? It's our life that's significant, that's representing. He said, this is a typical example of viewing the law as outside of yourself, of oneself. It's the typical way all other religions view the higher
Yes.
power and the rest of
Yes.
human life. The provisional Buddhas of the Prelotus Sutra teachings readily lend themselves to this kind of faith, the essence of which is escapism. Even when they're obviously suffering, people of dependent faith avoid looking at their problems. They don't have the courage or make any actual effort to challenge their situation. In such cases, quite frankly, faith is simply something people hide behind as they avoid dealing with reality. What did that just say?
Hiding behind.
It is not faith to be sitting in shit and sit there and go, I'll go ahead and sit in this shit because I have faith. It's going to change because I have faith. The Gohonzon is going to take care of me. But you're just still sitting in the shit. Don't you understand? You have to stand up and get out of the shit to get out of the shit.
Right.
Okay? So he says, even when they're obviously suffering, people of dependent faith avoid looking at their problems.
Right.
This isn't my problem. It's all the people that are doing bad things to me.
Right.
All right?
Or it didn't
I'm
help
not
me.
doing any slander. It's all those slanderers that are slandering me.
Right. You could have helped me.
Right. Jesus, this is so funny. They don't have the courage or make any actual effort to challenge their situation.
Right.
If they do contemplative prayer and it comes back to being them, they don't accept it as them. They figure a way to go, well, but it must really, it's me somewhat. And then they go ahead and they share it. Okay? And because they took a little piece of it, they consider that they're being reflective of it being their responsibility. But not really, because if he hadn't done that to me, I wouldn't have done it. I did, you know what I'm saying. That's called delusion. Right, Amy?
Sound like
Yeah.
one of my sons.
Yeah. They don't have the courage or make any actual effort to challenge their situation. In such cases, quite frankly, faith is simply something people hide behind as they avoid dealing with reality. Without a struggle, however, we cannot directly engage the gears of our human revolution. We cannot change our karma. It only comes through action. To use the analogy of mountain climbing, if we just walk around the base of the mountain and never actually attempt to ascend its slopes, we'll never reach the summit. No matter how much time passes, if we avoid challenging our own issues, we can never strengthen and develop ourselves, and we won't be able to attain Buddhahood in this lifetime. So I have friends that I know are going to watch this video. You've already written to me. You're sitting in shit and you're not moving. Okay? You have to get out of the shit yourself. You can't expect the Gohonzon is going to mystically transform your day. You're you're not dealing with the reality of you. Okay? You are the only reason all of this injustice is occurring around you. To stop it, you must take responsibility for it.
Yes.
All right? In addition, even if it's obvious that it's not your responsibility. Okay? Like something of pre-birth, or there's a million ways you can transpose that responsibility to something else. It's not really all my fault. No, it's all my fault. Dependent origination means you helped create the cause for those people that screwed you to be in your present existence. Okay? Dependent origination isn't all just one-way good things. Okay? So, in addition, it is also important that we try to rid ourselves of ambiguous, elusive doubt and disbelief, as well as grumbling and complaining. The erroneous belief that Myoho Renge-kyo, the mystic law, exists outside our lives, has at its core an inability to believe that all people, ourselves and others, possess the Buddha nature. That's why we get on shitsu them and hate them. And this disbelief stems from fundamental darkness. In terms of attitude and faith, this tendency to skeptically regard the Buddha nature as a nice ideal, but one that really doesn't really change reality, will manifest itself as prayer that is vague and lacking in conviction. Let me say it again. In terms of attitude and faith, this tendency to skeptically regard the Buddha nature as a nice ideal, but one that doesn't really change reality, will manifest itself as prayer that is vague and lacking in conviction. If our efforts in faith are half-hearted, we cannot change our attitude or fundamentally transform our lives. What's that talking about? Your faith. In other words, if we chant not really believing that chanting really can fix it, we'll end up with a half-assed prayer that really doesn't fix it. That's what that just said. As Nietzsche indicates in this writing, when he says you must summon up deep faith, if we hope to make our inherent Buddha nature the basis of our lives, or as Nietzsche terms it, to attain Buddhahood in this lifetime, we must continue striving to deepen our faith, our conviction in chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. What did that just say, though? Continue. To attain Buddhahood in this lifetime, we must continue striving to deepen our faith, our conviction in chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. So that says that without limit to how long we practice before we die, how long our life is, because we're going to chant to the last moment of our life, we have to constantly be continuing. We need to continue to grow. As our faith deepens, it will manifest as confident and concrete prayer, which is the truth. Because our practice of faith is aimed at attaining Buddhahood in this lifetime. So what is this saying? The importance of changing from practicing in order to get shit, to get benefits, to overcome, this or that, and just get solutions to problems, and change it over to what he said, which I pointed out to you, that our real goal in practicing Buddhism is to attain Buddhahood. And then I said, how many Buddhist meetings have you ever been to where they encouraged everybody to start chanting because this was the way to attain Buddhahood? None that I've ever been to. They all talk about miracles happening and benefits of some sort and prayers being answered. It's not about the attainment of Buddhahood. And what Daisaku Ikeda here is making it very clear, no. You've got to change so that the desire is to attain Buddhahood. Now, the reason that we don't do that is not that all the meetings are incorrect. It's the fact that, in reality, if the 10th world isn't activated at all, you're not going to buy into that for a nanosecond. You just walk away and never start chanting. Okay, you're more inclined to start chanting if you think something's going to get fixed. All right? So this is why we continue, because what happens is we attain Buddhahood in our present form. We constantly grow in how we perceive things. If I keep saying, read, how many times have you read the Gosho? Each of the Gosho. Each time you read it is deeper. I mean, you never read it and go, well, that was the same shit I read before already. I didn't get any more out of it. That never happens. Okay, so because our practice of faith is aimed at attaining Buddhahood in the middle of page 32, second column, in this lifetime, it is essential that we have a solidly focused attitude when chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. It is like trying to shoot an arrow. And what is that solidly focused attitude? Attaining Buddhahood. All right? It is like trying to shoot an arrow without a clear target. We won't draw the bow with any real force or determination. In the same way, we replace vague yearnings with concrete determinations and confident prayer, we can definitely accomplish what we hope to achieve. Grumbling and complaining are the principal gateways to ambiguous, elusive doubt and disbelief. Even if we know it is wrong, we may find ourselves grumbling and complaining in spite of ourselves. We all know that, right? We all know it's wrong, yet we all know we do it. We do.
Not yet.
Okay. I know I do. I thought, yeah, okay. You too? Okay. Give me 5. Should such behavior become habitual, and that's what we have to fight against, because it's natural, okay? It will act as a constant brake on our growth. Now, what's a constant brake on our growth? It'll slow us down. It won't stop us, okay? Unless we allow it to completely stop us. But I mean, again, it's a hindrance. It will act as a constant brake on our growth and cause us to forget about advancing and improving ourselves. We will then effectively close off our own potential, falling into the path of seeking the law outside of us. While it might be a real challenge to stop grumbling and complaining, we can derive from the mystic law the wisdom to control these tendencies and use them as a springboard for positive growth and development. Let's also strictly guard against slandering our fellow members. Slandering and harboring resentment and jealousy towards others results in denying their Buddha nature, which is a slander to do. The inability to believe in others' Buddha natures, just like not believing in our own, causes us to stray off course and seek the law externally. Our Buddha nature is what fundamentally spurs us to realize happiness for ourselves and others. Not to believe in the Buddha nature of ourselves or others is to deny the spirit of the Lotus Sutra, which teaches that all people have the potential for Buddhahood. Consequently, Nichiren sternly warns that if we go against the spirit of the Sutra, not only won't we accomplish our desire to attain Buddhahood in this lifetime, we will end up committing slander of the law, which will really set us backwards instead of allowing us to even stay in the same place. Also, unless we practice together united in the spirit of many in body, one in mind, the great desire for Kosen Rufu cannot be fulfilled. Let us confirm once again that chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo for the happiness of ourselves and others is the true means for attaining Buddhahood in this lifetime. Each person has the potential to become a Buddha. The spirit of the first three presidents pulses in the Soka Gakkai, and this is going to wrap it up. Okay. Page 33, a Buddhist teaching that affirms the existence of the law in each person's life is one that treasures the individual. It calls out to each person, encourages his or her individual human revolution, and seeks to lead all people to enlightenment. Okay? That should be the goal of what we're doing. In the appearance of one person after another embracing faith, we find the principle of bodhisattva steadily emerging from the earth to propagate the law and the unchanging formula for Kosen Rufu. This is the path of the Soka Gakkai that the first three presidents, Tanesu Buro Makaguchi, Josei Toda, and myself have steadfastly followed. That is why the Soka Gakkai has achieved such phenomenal development and why our Kosen Rufu movement is spread throughout the entire world. In contrast, Buddhist teachings that view the law as existing outside one's own life tend to be authoritarian or formalistic, to disregard and repress people. They are prone to emphasizing rituals or clerical authority, while their followers passively seek to assuage, assuage their anxieties to go along with it. Their anxieties through dependence on ceremonies or clergy. Further, taking advantage of the fact that one of a human being's greatest sources of anxiety is death and what comes after, Buddhist schools of this kind in Japan have come to function almost exclusively as purveyors of funeral and memorial services for the deceased, devolving into what is known as funeral Buddhism. They offer no philosophy that empowers people to enable them to live better lives. The Soka Gakkai's founder, President Makaguchi, asserted that Nichiren Buddhism is a teaching for transforming one's life. To believe that the mystic law of Myoho Renge-kyo exists within us is to have confidence that we will definitely become happy and attain Buddhahood in this lifetime. Faith also means actively working for Kosen Rufu through sharing Nichiren Buddhism based on the conviction that it holds the key to happiness for both ourselves and others. This genuine faith pervades the Soka Gakkai and the SGI. The greatness of the Soka Gakkai and the first three presidents' spirit of the oneness of mentor and disciple shine in the undertaking of this most difficult of challenges, that of awakening people to the law within. President Toda used to say, you should resolve, I am Myoho Renge-kyo. The mystic law is the highly effective medicine that relieves the sufferings of all people. It is also the great treasure storehouse that brings good fortune and happiness to all. The important thing is to live our lives based on and completely in sync with the mystic law. It is to imbue and solidify our lives with the mystic law. Our daily realities are filled with an endless succession of problems. So what did he just say?
It's never ending.
And then he said our. He said everybody's. He says if you're practicing this Buddhism correctly and you're reading what I'm writing to you, then you must be doing what I'm doing and you must be experiencing what I'm experiencing. Right. Our daily realities are filled with an endless succession of problems. But with the firm belief that our lives are Myoho Rengekyo, we should strive to boldly challenge everything with the unwavering conviction that we can overcome all hardships and become happy without fail. That's called faith. When we maintain deep faith based on the foundation that I am Myoho Rengekyo, we can take on any problem with courage. The key to victory in life lies in whether we bring forth courage. Not a shrinking timidity, but a challenging courage. This is what we need to have. So it's all about the courage to do it, guys, obviously. Irrespective of the obstacles we may encounter in the course of our practice, irrespective, no matter what they are, we must not retreat a single step. We must not be alarmed or startled by them. The power of the mystic law, Myoho Rengekyo, can triumph over anything. To become deeply confident of this is most important. Fearing hardships and bemoaning and resenting our environment are to believe that the law is outside our own lives. So is losing our confidence in our ability to overcome our circumstances and turning to others in the hope that they will save us, or blaming others for our problems, or giving in to hopelessness or resignation. When difficulties beset us, no matter how trying they may be, we must clearly see them for the obstacles or devilish functions they are, and battle against them without retreating. This is the way of the life of those who chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo and dedicate their lives to the mystic law. Nichiren Daishonin says, "My disciples cannot accomplish anything if they are cowardly." In accord with these words, let's cast aside cowardice and make courage our foremost attribute. People of courageous faith can break through the dark clouds of fear, ignorance, and delusion to bring the sun of the mystic law to shine and beautiful flowers of Myoho Renge-kyo, the lotus of the mystic law, to bloom in their lives. President Toda gave the following guidance to Young Women's Division members in the pioneering days of our movement. You should take pride in possessing the same life as the Buddha of the latter day. You should take pride in possessing the same life as the Buddha of the latter day. Saying you and Nichiren Daishonin are exactly the same. Win in life with a noble spirit. You must absolutely never deprecate yourselves, because you have the same life as Nichiren Daishonin within you. Nichiren Buddhism starts from the realization that the supreme life condition of Buddhahood exists in each of us. That's the life condition I was speaking of. It is a teaching that makes it possible for us to achieve the profoundest inner transformation, a transformation of our fundamental attitude or mindset. That is why Nichiren emphasizes the importance of our minds, of what's in our hearts. He writes, whether you chant the Buddha's name, recite the sutra, or merely offer flowers and incense, all of your virtuous acts will implant benefits and roots of goodness in your life. With this conviction, you should strive in faith. All our efforts in faith, including our practice of reciting the Lotus Sutra and chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo each morning and evening, as well as all of our various Soka Gakkai activities, everything that encourages Kosen Rufu that we do to anybody, anywhere, all virtuous acts that implant benefits and roots of goodness in our lives, those who advance with this deep awareness will be the true victors who travel the direct path to attaining Buddhahood in this lifetime. Always uphold the great philosophy embodied in Nichiren's words, it is the heart that is important. Let us lead magnificent, victorious lives. Page 34, we'll start chapter 5 next week. Thank you very much.
Thank you.